Awesome show lined up today. I'm so stoked. I can barely sit down in my chair. I want to run around screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm not going to. But I want to introduce to you guys someone who has not only been a friend for a long time, but has amassed an amazing career in all things collectibles. He was former president of PCGS and now founder of Standard Gaming. He's the one and only Brett Charville, and he's with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. This is awesome. Love being in the bunker here.
Yeah, dude, we have we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, just how this whole thing was going to flow, and just kind of catching up because it's been a while since we've, there's been a few texts here and there over the years, but nothing. Just kind of checking in.
Yeah,
Hey,
making up for lost time. Yeah, it's been great.
You got a heartbeat? Yeah, I got a heartbeat. Okay, good. I'm glad everybody's okay. But now he's here live in the building. Flew in from LA today. So we appreciate that. Obviously.
Flew in from Columbus today. Yeah.
Columbus, okay. Columbus, LA.
Paris of the Midwest.
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I remember I was at a Long Beach coin show, and
2007.
Brett, 2007. Ryan Fisher and I were, I think it was like a Friday, like everybody was like ready to go home, and you were hitting the floor looking for coins, and you came over and looked at boxes, and we introduced each other. I didn't know you at the time, obviously, so we introduced ourselves, and you looked at coins, and we sat there, and Ryan we were bored, so we just sat there and talked and BS for probably an hour. You probably bought some stuff, and that was the first time I ever met you. And man, what a career you have built since then. You spent your time at Heritage, and basically got to a point to where you made the decision. Well, I guess maybe you tell me the decision. Your next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, so to back up a little bit, I started 2005 Heritage intern. I was 20 years old. It was like the best opportunity in my life. To be able to basically get paid $10 an hour in free housing in Dallas was like an absolute dream. I was going to college in Ohio at the time, and went down there, baby. Miami of Ohio. Yeah, absolutely. And just totally, got enthralled with it, engrossed with it. And I like to tell people, I'm passionate about all collectibles, right? They put me in the coin department, which is the biggest department at Heritage, still is. And, if they would have put me into comic books or sports cards or art or movie posters, I probably would have done that for the last 15 years. And so worked at Heritage, interned a couple summers, came back full-time, did that a couple years ago. Ended up working for a company called Carter Numismatics for a couple years up in Tulsa. 2012, branched out on my own, started a company called Standard Numismatics, wholesale, buy and sell. Yeah.
Let me stop you real quick. Where did you learn? So, everybody knows you have an eye for coins, right? It's no secret. Where did that develop? And give me a little bit. I don't need the entire, I don't need a litany of. I just want an idea of where you learned that you were seeing things that other people weren't, or you were catching some people's mistakes. Tell me when that started and how that started, and maybe who taught. Did you have a mentor or?
Yeah, totally. And so I grew up. I collected everything when I was a kid. Coins, probably the most. Probably after that, probably comics and video games. And there was a tiny little coin shop in Sandusky, Ohio, where I'm from. Nothing like the bunker that we're in right now, right? Nothing like the International Galactic World headquarters of U.S. coins and jewelry, right? And they didn't even have any gold coins. And I remember because I was thinking about you guys. I was thinking about this morning, kind of telling this story, and that you guys growing up in this environment, you guys were probably sorting 20s when you were kids, right? I didn't hold a gold coin in my hand until I was 20 as a Heritage intern.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think because of that, right, like I just took off like a rocket. I was allowed to work overtime. They let me do shows. They let me, work weekends, everything. There was a great library that I think I was probably the only person other than a auction cataloger, using this library and like taking books home and just reading. and just full, it's fun because when we talk about video games, that I've only been in video games for a couple years, but I see myself doing that now, just being, fully engrossed, and there's so much to learn, so many varieties, all sorts of stuff. It's really, really just enthralling overall. And but so, getting in, full-time at Heritage, got under, really kind of under, Ryan Carroll, a little bit less Jim Halper in at Heritage, really kind of under the right people. Jason Carter at Carter Numismatics obviously is probably one of the greatest. I mean, Ryan Carroll and Jason Carter are probably two of the 10 best coin graders of all time. And to be underneath them, then afterwards, as I went on my own, Standard Numismatics in Chicago, John Albanese became a pretty big mentor. I mean, really, it was kind of like lightning struck 3 times in terms of who the big mentors in my life were. And I think,
not a bad 3.
Yeah. And I think advice for younger people in the space, I taught Coin Camp for 5 summers at the American Numismatic Association, intermediate and beginner grading and stuff. And what I'd always tell people is, finding mentors in any collectible hobby is massive. There's so much knowledge in this hobby, right, that just is in people's heads.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get put down onto paper. And, asking the right questions, knowing when to be quiet, which you guys know me, it can be a problem sometimes, right? And, but I mean, asking the right questions, I think kind of, adding value to your mentors, right? If there's a local coin shop that you're going to, do business with them. Don't just come and ask questions and take it all, then find what you want on eBay or something like that. Like do business with them, sort of, develop that relationship where they see you as a trading partner or a peer, as you rise up, in the business. So 2012, branched out on my own, moved to Chicago. Yeah.
We just talked about our last episode.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
And that's to visit the local coin shop, because I mean, not only are they going to they're going to give you the best deal, but they're also going to give you a buyback of some sorts if something happens, or maybe you decide down the line that this hobby is just not for you.
Yeah.
There's no loyalty in some situations if you buy a coin, say like if you buy one from Heritage and you pay too much, and you're kind of left to the mercy of the market. If you come into my shop, we offer a 1 year 10% buyback guarantee on any numismatic coin that's not gold or bullion related.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, a 10% out in any hobby.
Fantastic. Yeah.
There's not very many hobbies I've ever been introduced to that
I've never even heard of that at a coin shop before, honestly.
No, we've been doing it kind of quietly. We don't like blow it out there, but that's just something that we've always done. I say always. In the last 10 years since Matthew and I took it over, we do a 10% buyback. So it just instills, number one, hey, we believe in our product enough to where we feel like we can work on this margin. B, this is something that we believe in, that we think is going to grow.
Sure.
Right. And, C, it's just do business local, find somebody that you like, even if it's not us, maybe if it's, someone down the street or,
Yeah. To that point, I would even take a step back and say, if you have a good coin shop that's local to you, you're already like luckier than you realize.
Yeah.
Like growing up in North Central Ohio, there wasn't a coin club.
Yeah.
There, the coin shop, God bless the guy, was 8 Mercury dimes, 3 Morgan dollars, and 8 guns. I mean, sort of thing. And so I mean, if you just have a good shop by you, like, what an opportunity there. I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So you were going on to your next phase. I stopped you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So no. Yeah. So started a company, Standard Numismatics, in 2012 in Chicago. Great. Just wholesale, rare coin business, buy and sell. Ended up doing. We were talking about this before the show. I think we're probably over $10 million in lifetime two-way business with you guys. Just tons of business with you guys. Always had a great relationship with you guys. I think there's a lot of parallels in the way we do business.
Right.
I think we were kind of touching on this earlier. We were just talking about coin shops, in that, you guys, U.S. Coins and Jewelry, I mean, you guys have such a deep bench and so much numismatic skill here, and the right people here. And you guys kind of have this opportunity when somebody walks into your shop, it seems like you guys can take the time to explain stuff to them. You can kind of try to put them on the right path, and then for guys like me that were more experienced and just want to be like, hey, like, give me your absolute best price on this box of coins. Like, we could do that, and we could do 6-figure deals like monthly, sort of thing. So you guys kind of being, you guys seem to manage being everything to everyone, all at once, which is really impressive. For me on the coin side, I was always more strictly as a dealer, pretty wholesale oriented, and stuff like that. And, being out of Chicago, it's I would tip my hat to coin dealers in Chicago. It's a difficult state to, area to operate out of and stuff like that. And, so ran my business, Standard Numismatics, for 7 years. And then kind of the big call came, and ended up selling that business and taking the job as president of PCGS. As you guys all know, PCGS, biggest coin grading company in the world, grade about 2.5 million coins a year, and just amazing opportunity. So went there 2019. I was 33. So that was, interesting. We're publicly traded company at the time. And so, had to interview, with the board members and stuff like that, and have a lot of long conversations. Really, Joe Orlando, he was the CEO of Collectors Universe at the time, the guy that hired me. Can't say enough good things about him as a leader at that company, and him taking the shot on me is probably the single biggest risk biggest shot somebody's kind of taken on me, probably ever will in my life, in terms of kind of entrusting me with that role. So, overnight, 2019, I go from having 5 employees to about 250, about 40 in Shanghai, 10 in Hong Kong, handful in Paris, about 600 person company total, Collectors Universe, PSA, as everybody knows, sister company. And it was madness, the first year was
So while you were at PCGS and y'all grew internationally,
mm-hmm.
and where was the coolest coin show that you got to visit?
Coolest coin show. So that's definitely different than my favorite coin show. Coolest coin show, Hong Kong International Show in Hong Kong. Unbelievable. Very interesting, all walks of life. We all know, our hobby skews male, and in Hong Kong, more female collectors than I've ever seen.
Really?
More paper money than I've ever seen.
A lot of paper money.
And just fascinating. Just
watches,
wall to wall people.
Stuff
Watches.
everywhere.
Yeah, that was really a treat. I forget the name of the hotel in Hong Kong, but that was a really cool show. Only got to go there once because of COVID.
Right.
In the little under 3 years I was at PCGS. But yeah, that show. Favorite show. I'm actually a sucker for Baltimore.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Sucker for Baltimore.
I knew you were going to say that.
Loved my salad days going out in Baltimore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Ryan
soft
and
spot.
it's funny that Ryan and I, we talk, from time to time. I talked to him this morning, but Ryan and I, we loved Baltimore. It's the food. You're just not going to get better crab. You're not going to get better crab cakes.
Yeah. And what's funny is that show has the, I love the Baltimore show. I don't want to sing bad about it, but it's also like a day too short. Yeah. So it's funny because it was about the tightest, most exhausting framework of any show I would go to. It was just nonstop for 3 days as opposed to spreading it over 5 days,
right.
or something
With
like
the
that.
Setup and you get a gap.
But yeah, no, big Baltimore fan. I was joking with Matt before we came on here too, that really any show too, I love big soft spot. You guys remember it still exists, St. Charles, Silver Dollar Expo and stuff like that. Just any show where I can get off an elevator and walk about 30 feet forward and I'm in a coin show. That's I'm pretty happy about that.
And when there's a Bass Pro Shop, literally right next door, that's pretty cool too. I'll never forget. That's funny. The scariest flight I've ever been on in my entire life was flying into that show. The fog, it was as dense as I have ever seen it. I was like, oh, we've got to be in the clouds. And okay, guys, we're going to prepare for landing. I'm like, prepare for landing? I'm like, hold on. I'm doing the math in my head. All of a sudden, all these equations are going on. I'm like, wait a minute now. I open up and I never do this. I open up the window and I'm looking out. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, I don't see anywhere where we're going to land. And all of a sudden it went from fog, light, runway, boom. And the whole plane just shook and everyone's shaking. Things are flying out of the thing. Old ladies are stuck to the seat. And I I think I was just like in shock for like 30 seconds. I'm like, what in the world just took place
Yeah.
there? I was like, that's gonna be something that I think I'll never forget. That
Certainly so. Yeah.
dude, scary, super scary.
I felt it when you said the boom.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, it was literally just like you're like fog, no fog. Oh, there's the ground. Bam, and then like literally the plane just bounced, and it was stressful, upon stressful, and yeah. So I had to sneak that in there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I mean, Hong Kong. I kind of had a feeling you're gonna say Hong Kong. A lot of people. I mean, Hong Kong. I mean, the trade. The amount of customers, the money
that goes
obviously,
into
the money
their
that goes
yeah,
in and
their
out.
I think there's
setups.
a lot of youth, you know, when you go international, you know, the hobby starts to skew younger too.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Like
What
like
age group?
decades younger.
Really?
I would say if you're going average age, you know, PCGS average customer was about 60 on average, and I would say, you know, that show maybe was 45,
Wow.
you know, or something like that. I mean, like noticeably younger, you
Wow.
know, which I think too, there's a lot of excitement, right? You know, if you talk about, you know, rare U.S. coins, we're a mature market at this point, right? You know, a lot of this stuff, you know, really cool 6 and 7 figure coins coming out of the woodwork is a really rare thing in U.S. coins.
Right.
It's a daily thing in China, right? You know, and other Asian and Southeast Asian countries and stuff. So a lot of excitement there. A lot of enthusiasm. You know, every dealer, the dealers skew younger and they skew optimistic.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to see there. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Did you ever get into the foreign side of that? Did you ever get into the foreign side of coins?
Yeah, I started collecting when I was at PCGS. I started collecting foreign coins. Yeah, actually, and because I was just always it was too hard as a dealer where I own my own business to really put anything away.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a joke. I would put stuff away. We'd put it in the safety deposit box. Our safety deposit boxes in Chicago are actually in the basement of Hancock Tower. It was really cool. A very like James Bond, esque feel down there. And I would put good coins away, and invariably we'd have a big auction bill coming up or a big purchase from U.S. Coins and Jewelry, you know, or something like we need that money. Like, hey, we gotta go grab those coins out. You know, I had I don't know if you guys know this coin, but there's a fat NGC proof Barber Diamond 9 that I owned for a couple years that I had put away. That's like just it's like a true 9 to me, 69 grade. And some other cool stuff like that. But yeah, then when I was PCGS president, I wasn't dealing anymore. I started buying some interesting world coins and stuff like that.
Yeah, you actually bought a coin. You bought an early 5 from me. I think while you were still president. I think it was like a 1807 bust. God, I want to say XF40 and PC for like $8 grand.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of that the US stuff I was buying was kind of the cool early sub 10K early gold sort of, just stuff where the value would always kind of scream to me.
Stuff I still think is perfectly. And
totally.
The levels are there.
Yeah.
I mean, the rarity value's there.
It's a sweet spot for customers.
Well, it's a good sweet spot.
we always have customers for that.
It's a good sweet spot. And if the coins are choice, and they're choice for the grade, I mean, obviously you would love to have them stickered, but the sticker brings such a huge premium now. But there's still nice coins out there unstickered. They still have a good look to them. They still have a good appearance.
We'll talk about it when we talk about video games too. But I always think about what is the story that this collectible tells.
Exactly.
Right. And I think if you have an 18075, the story of like a nice XF is probably more compelling as a story than a mint state example.
No doubt, especially a 5 or something that that just went to one person, got put back.
Yeah, it was in somebody's cabinet the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this coin was like bought, beer was bought with it, food was bought with it, housing was
remarkable.
Bought with it. Yeah. No, I think you're right. That's a pretty cool deal. So, okay. So you're PCGS president. I mean, to me, the pinnacle. I mean, I don't think, there's a better, when you're talking about a grading service that to me is the most popular grading service, and then you're the CEO of it. When I got the news myself, and I had heard grumblings, and then all of a sudden it was official. I didn't text you at the time because I figured you were, bombarded, so I wasn't gonna mess with you then. I read some messages that had confirmed it, and I was like, wow, So I think I sent you a text. I said, super proud, super proud.
Mm-hmm.
Big time.
Papa.
Well, I mean, just because, here you go. I mean, you and I were looking at coins, and I think you were buying, sub $2,500 coins on a
Yeah,
Friday.
we were
a
at a
coin
bar in
show.
Baltimore on a Thursday night,
There
you know,
you
or
go.
something.
You know,
Yeah,
drinking beer and
Yeah.
goofing off, right?
Mhm.
And just talking about God knows what. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's been a gap where, you know, you and I hadn't seen each other, and then standard. And then, you know, it was more like I'd send you a box than,
Mhm.
you know, we would do face
Yeah.
to face business, right? And I had somebody I would pull the coins, and then I had somebody dealing with Evan at that time.
Sure.
So, you know, you and I never really got on par unless there was one certain coin that I thought maybe needed, you know, you and I to talk about. But
Which, I mean, that tells you about the way you guys are capable of doing business, and the way I like to do business is that we did millions of dollars of business with hardly talking to each
Right,
other, you
right.
know, kind of remarkable. Yeah.
right, well, that's, you know, and then again, that's a good testament to having good employees, you know, spending the right amount of time with them to teach them the right and wrong ways to do things. That's something that we preach on this podcast. That's something that we will continue to preach, guys. So stay tuned as we continue to develop on how to take your employee and turn him into an absolute animal. Okay. So that's something that we will continue to do. I think we do a really good job here. I don't want to, I'm not giving it the old attaboy, but I think, you know, when we grow from X amount of employees to, you know, almost triple that amount of employees, and, you know, they all enrich their lives. They do better. They buy houses. They have families. They're progressing in life. They're happy. You know, there's no better employee than a happy employee, right? It just makes life easier, right? It makes you feel good that they're working hard for you. You're working hard for them. It's a give-take relationship, and, you know.
Yeah, no, totally. You know, the 7 years I ran Standard Numismatics, easily the thing that I look back at that I wish I would have done better is imparted more to the couple key guys, you know, on the team. And it's just, it's one of those things. You're always in the moment. You're busy. You need to stop and make time and say, hey, you know, this is why we're doing it this way. You know, this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z, you know, sort of stuff like that. Super critical. It's something I'm, you know, focused a lot more on at PCGS, of course. And yeah, when you go from, you know, you go from having 5 employees, you're like, okay, I can kind of juggle all the things I need to juggle. And then you go to 200, 250, you're like, no. Like I
You
need
need some help.
key core people that we're aligned with mentally, in the same headspace, in the same thought space, and are gonna, you know, be able to go out and kind of execute, you know. And it's super, super important. And yeah, it all makes the math work better too, you know, like you said. Yeah.
Last thing I want to get into before we jump into standard gaming, which, dude, it's got me super pumped. You brought these games in here, dude, and like I just want to grab the closest one to me, dude. It's like, what? Like when I put this in my hand, so like I didn't really realize it until I have it in my hand. So now that I have this in my hand, I'm like, whoa, dude, this is not only nostalgic, but you know, brings back memories of, you know, old friends that I had, you know, homes and like things that I went to, or, you know, places that I played these games, and like cheat codes and all kinds of other things that just, you know, bring a bunch of, you know,
Nostalgia.
yeah, I love it,
Yeah.
man. I think it's freaking sweet. And I just, you know, to have bought a bunch of them, I think it's cool. And I can't wait for you to be able to tell me more. But there's one thing I wanted to touch on real quick and talk about it at your comfort zone. But the exit to PCGS, right? So some people look at that as like, wow, that's the pinnacle of any job in numismatics, is to run the largest grading company.
Sure.
I mean, you're also known for your eye, right? So now you get a job where, you know, you're basically, you know, you're the CEO. I mean, and you step away. Can you give us a little bit of insight about how that went down? And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people who I've talked to that just, I don't think they know the answer because they've never asked. So
Sure.
maybe you can give us a tidbit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I took the job 2019, beginning of 2019, and I was a trader my whole life, right? Didn't have a ton of experience with retail, with you know, forward facing, you know, customer experience and stuff like that. Get thrown into this job, and the best analogy that I always like to use a lot of sports analogies when you're at Collectors Universe and stuff, is it really kind of felt like I went from playing in the NBA every day to being the head referee. And you go to this kind of scenario where, you know, if you think about it, if you're a grading service, right, everybody submits their coins for grading, and if you polled the audience at any given time, you ask 100 random people, is PCGS too loose or is PCGS too tight? If you include dealers, if you include collectors, old collectors, new collectors, you're going to be like 50-50 down the line at all times, right?
Yeah.
Some people are yelling, oh, you guys aren't doing it right this way. You guys aren't doing it right that way. And so, so I really just kind of felt like I was always kind of the head referee. And it was exhausting,
Yeah.
and to kind of take you quick through the timeline, I started in 2019 and, everybody, I think kind of out of the gate, new role, there's not a lot of turnover in that position. The guy before me was there for 10 years. Right. And everybody, I think, kind of wants to take a shot, right? Everybody wants to, hey, this was my deal, but this should be my, because, dealers, they sometimes will get, discounted submission rates,
Right.
or, some will say, oh, well, there's this coin that was, we tried to get it in a proof holder 10 years ago and they were wrong and we're right. And, so you kind of go through this 6 months to a year, kind of getting your sea legs. And so I'm finally
Like
starting
a
to feel
bulletproof
good.
vest
Yeah,
on, taking
yeah.
shots left and right.
And we do we do my second annual strategic planning session, feeling great about everything, and COVID.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of like to talk about COVID in two parts, right? And all of COVID is awful, but everybody in the collectibles industry hobby can really kind of divide COVID into two parts, which was everybody kind of thinks the world is going to end. We don't know what's going to happen. People are laying people off. Everything's closed. To on a dime, as busy as everyone in collectibles has ever been.
Right.
And
No
so, And so, I remember being, helping, Orange County closed down. They did this kind of back and forth thing. They closed down and they said, oh, maybe we're not closed. And then they fully closed, for 2 weeks. And, so we go from, literally helping, fill up the vaults. Like, hey, we're closing these doors and we don't know when we're going to open them again,
Right.
with COVID. It's crazy. Right. And so we go through that to then 6 months later, it's like a tidal wave, right? All the water goes out. It's quiet. It's eerily quiet. The birds have all left. And then you just get hit with this 60-foot tidal wave of submissions and new customers. PSA obviously at that point just went absolutely orbital, right? And they're an order of magnitude larger. They're 3 or 4 times larger than they were just even like 5 years ago.
Right.
And so you kind of get through all of that. And then our company grew so much. Like I said, we were publicly traded, started to get a lot of interest from private equity groups, from investors and stuff like that. We ended up getting taken private by a really great group, Nat Turner, Dan Sunheim, Steve Cohen, some other guys, really great people. We get taken private. And I'm just like, it was like you finished a 10K and then like a new guy comes in and is like, all right guys, like the marathon starts today, or something. And I'm like, man, like I need to hit the showers. So like really great guy. Like they great guys there. Nat Turner, new CEO, they brought, I think, a lot of the right people in and stuff, headed in the right direction. And I just looked at it as I was exhausted. They wanted everybody to kind of do longer term commitments. Another kind of big, just kind of fact of the matter is that company in the last 5 years has transitioned from being probably a coin company. Collectors Universe was more than 50% coins, to being a sports card company, and now being kind of a broader collectibles company. Right. And a lot of what they wanted me to do was, really kind of long-term thing. And I'm like, guys, my hairline has gone from here to here in like under 3 years. And if I commit to like 5 more years, I'm just like, I'll just be a skeleton. There won't be anything left. So super, super amicable. And I didn't have anything lined up, and, just took some time off, and it ended up leading to, standardgaming.com, but yeah, that's the whole story there.
So back to COVID, what were some of the challenges that y'all ran into?
Sure.
At PCGS?
It was a lot. I touched on it before. I mean, there was just so much uncertainty, out of the gate, right? So Orange County shuts down. And if you think about it, like we're holding, I think at the time, $75 million in customer product, right? And you have this sort of situation where, banks need to stay open, right? Well, what about a certification service that, somebody needs to sell something to keep their shop open, keep their employees on payroll? sell something that, they're having a hardship because of COVID. They need to sell their coins that they send in for grading to pay a medical bill, or something like that. So, we had this urgent need to stay open for our customer base. And at the same time, this dual mandate of doing right by our employees. Sure. And as you guys recall, there was so much uncertainty. You remember at the beginning of COVID, we all thankfully incorrectly thought that COVID sat on surfaces for a really long time. I don't know if you guys kind of remember that. It was like, we were like, if one grader has COVID and he puts the coin in the box, is he going to then come over, the next guy takes it out of the box and he has COVID or something. And thankfully, that's just not really how, COVID works. But, we
found out it didn't spread that way.
Yeah. It didn't spread that way, thankfully.
Surface.
And so we ultimately, ton of safety protocols.
Or so we were told.
Yeah. So we had a ton of safety protocols. We actually switched to, night shift, multiple shifts in terms of sealing and stuff like that, right? Because you're trying to seal the same number of coins and sports cards into holders, but you need to spread out. We were already growing at a good clip up to that point, so we're already a little tight on space.
Sure.
Leading up to that. Thankfully, another blessing of COVID. There's some silver linings in COVID, right? Obviously, we talk about that in collectibles, and our neighboring. We were in a building that was, I think, 3 tenants, and one of the biggest neighboring tenant left. They were like, "We're just going to go to work from home," so. Collectors Universe was able to double their footprint as a result.
Space.
Yeah, and they're even larger now, and so that was really I guess a positive benefit. Lots of backlogs. And then you get into a big thing that occurred that's still occurring is your supply chain. You can say, I need to make my holders in America. Well, we were making our holders in America. I believe they still do at PCGS, but the people don't think about this sort of stuff. The resin that goes into a holder, right, that gets melted down to stamp the plastic, that stuff isn't made in America. Nowhere in America. Nobody has plastic that, womb to tomb was made in America, sort of thing. So you start to get into all these supply chain snarls. A really big thing we did at PCGS when I was there was we added the NFC chip into the holder, so you can tap your phone. That became a big,
that was awesome.
And that is, I think that's probably the single best thing I did at PCGS in terms of a long-term anti-counterfeiting, thing. It's huge in China, and I think that, but that chip is very similar to this. You hear about all these chip shortages, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically the same thing,
Really?
So so you have all these issues there. We just integrated this into our product. We roll out the red carpet for it. We say it's in every product, and then it was very difficult. We were able to, secure enough chips and stuff like that. But that was, I mean, that's just a handful.
What a great feature that chip is.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in the future that can be done with it in terms of, customer, collector interaction with the, you tap it on there, and there's a video about the coins start playing. Do you get better pricing information?
Sure.
Sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we have customers that use that.
I like the store. I was thinking like more of like an inventory component to where
you can do that.
Like
RFID,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And be able to run a box of inventory
Absolutely.
just by scanning.
Right through
the
it.
area.
Yeah, possibilities are endless with that technology.
So cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
how about with you guys? Did you guys? I mean, what was COVID like with you guys? What were the biggest challenges and stuff like that?
I can tell you that our store traffic slowed down. Right.
Well,
store traffic slowed.
We had to. We were put on a red alert.
Yeah.
So,
but the bullion.
Well, basically we got shut down.
Yeah, we did.
Well, we never stopped working though, and that's also like a testament, like a shout out to our employees. I mean, our employees they stood tall.
Yeah, we made an option, but everyone wanted to be there.
Everyone wanted to be there. Nobody sat at home. Not one person.
Nope.
Not a single soul sat on their hands. They all took it. They all came to work, and like Matt was saying.
Yeah, we turned half of our showroom to shipping, because we had so many orders of bullion.
Because we gravitated, so we basically pivoted to doing bullion on eBay.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from a distributor and said, hey, I think silver this was 3/18/2020. Silver was at $12, about to break 11, and he said, "Do you want to buy 100,000 ounces worth of 10-ounce bars at X?" I said, I went upstairs and I talked to Kenny. I said, "I've got to buy this position." He said, "Yeah." I mean, he said, "Offer him this," and I was like, okay. So, I offered him that, and, I think somehow we got the deal done anyway. But so all of a sudden we've got, this 18-wheeler truck sitting outside of all these 10-ounce bars. Now, by the time the 10-ounce bars got there, silver was 15. We were completely unhedged. We've never hedged, the company. We're naked as could be. And like Matt said, our whole showroom was blue PCGS boxes filled with eBay orders, and we were selling the hell out of 10-ounce bars, and it was so much fun. Yeah. And everybody in our group banded together. Yeah. And honestly, it changed the scope of our business, because bullion, we did it, but we weren't doing it wholesale. We weren't taking positions. We weren't trading positions. We weren't actively seeking wholesale partnerships, outside of, the city. We took care of a lot of the city's production, but, it's a whole nother ball.
It sounded like exactly like the analogy I used earlier of, that tidal wave right before the tsunami. All the water comes out. There's all the uncertainty. Hey, what's going on? And then you just get that tidal wave,
Well, and then that's where that leadership, where, your leadership, you stayed there, you weathered the storm, you fought through it, you found new inventive ways to take care of things.
Sure.
New inventive ways to grade coins, get things processed. You listen to all the complaining and listen to all this and take it with a grain of salt, but still make progress. Same thing we did. We had great leadership. We were here every day. There was no days off.
And we did, one of the biggest things that I spearheaded at PCGS too during COVID was I don't know if you guys remember the replacement coin show program. So every time a major show got canceled, this one by one, these shows were getting canceled, we would do a replacement show in Vegas. It was basically kind of the only place in America you could have a coin show. And that was, masks, separate eating area, all these different sort of regulations and stuff. But so, 60 days out, Baltimore would get canceled. So we say, okay, guys, hey, okay, coin market, we're going to put this on the books. We'll be there. There'll be a place if you want to come trade, if you feel comfortable with it.
Yep, I remember. That's cool.
And really kind of, for those, especially those dealers too that really rely on it. You guys know, some people have more of a online presence, some people more shows, and you just
cash flow.
Yeah, you're
regardless of what it is.
You're kind of greasing the skids a little bit at that point, and just kind of doing the best you can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. So
you were at PCGS. You got to see all sorts of coins.
Oh yeah.
What was your favorite? Coin.
Yeah.
What was it?
That's a good one. So I would probably have to say probably 2 coins. So first off, my personal, always longtime favorite coin, 1804 Proof 10.
Yeah.
Monster coin. For those that don't know, it's a Proof 10 in deep cam from 1804. I mean it's weird to describe it, like rephrase it that way, but
I think there's a tattoo floating around somewhere.
Yeah. There's a guy that we know that has an amazing 1804 Proof. If you're listening right now, send us a picture of your forearm.
I wasn't going to say the name.
We want to see we can run that again if we need to. If you're the guy, 3, 2, 1. If you're the guy with the proof, we know somebody. There's somebody in the market with an 1804 Proof 10 tattoo. If you're the person, we're not going to say your name, but please, send us the picture of your forearm. We adore.
Send us a
tattoo.
Photo. We'll send you a gift.
Yeah, there you go.
Free
Exactly.
Gift.
Yeah. But so 1804 Proof 10. PCGS in 2021 handled the Bob Simpson coin, which is the best one. I think it's 65 plus deep cam. It's a moose. I mean, it's unbelievable. And to me, it's compelling. There's how many, a dozen, 15, $1804. There's, 4. It's like an $1804, but made out of gold and proof. And there's less of them.
It's deep cam.
To me, it's the coin,
it's deep cam.
And it's always been my favorite coin. And then the other one obviously is 1933-20.
Yeah.
To come through and just kind of the story behind that and stuff like that is just was remarkable to be a part of that and stuff like that. Yeah.
My question about that coin was, okay, so I mean the coin brought almost 20 million. How did y'all grade that coin on site? Did you have to go off site? Like, can you without spilling the beans, can you give us any, like, where was that coin graded?
Yeah, so I can tell actually that there's kind of two stories. There's how it got graded, and then also kind of then there's how we assign the grade, and then there's kind of how we encapsulated it. Two separate stories, right? So the coin auctioned in 2003 previously, I believe. At that time, David Hall, John Danruther, I believe a couple other guys went and saw it. Sotheby's at the time, they had no incentive to really holder the coin, encapsulate it, right?
Of course.
So those guys went, they viewed the coin in person, they assigned the grade 65 to the coin, which is, it's like, you look at it and you're like, this is a 65. I mean, it's a very clear, it's
nice,
it's really nice
really
for
Jimmy.
the grade, sort of thing.
But I've seen it, it's Jimmy.
Yeah, it's very Jimmy.
Yeah.
And so, in that auction catalog at that time, it said, these 4 gentlemen came out for PCGS and assigned this grade to it. The coin remained in its, lucite, holder.
Okay.
And then it came up for auction again. And I happened to be, I'm from Ohio, Ohio visiting some family. A couple years prior, Sotheby's, auctioned it 20 years ago, and then they got it again. And Sotheby's a couple years prior had a pretty big Morgan Dollar deal that they did. I flew there and viewed the sale, bought some stuff, got to know, was friendly with a couple of people at Sotheby's. And so they announced that they got this. I was in Ohio. I literally replied all to a chain about my invoice from 2018. It was like, hey guys, I don't know if you guys remember me. I was one of the younger guys viewing the sale. I'm now the president of PCGS. We would love to grade this coin. I will be there tomorrow. I'm in Ohio right now. I'll take a flight to New York. They replied back, talked to him on the phone for 20 minutes, and they were like, yeah, come out. So
really?
The next morning, flew to New York, viewed it in person, and basically effectively just confirmed the grade at that point. So then, in the auction catalog, the way it was listed, it was, 1933-20. And then, in the provenance and description and stuff, it's, initially confirmed by David Hall and then, reconfirmed by PCGS President Brett Charville. So auction sales brings 19 million and some change.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Really good guy bought it. A guy who has just an unbelievable collection of saints now. That's obviously the piece de resistance of that, collection.
Of course.
And then actually getting it holdered. So the customer, the guy that won it, does a lot of business with Ian Russell. Great collections, as you guys know.
Love Ian. Shout out to Ian.
Yeah. And
we love you, Ian.
Yeah. So Ian's customer, the gentleman that won it, does a lot of business with Ian. Started talking with Ian about how we could get it graded, and the logistics and the insurance and the brinksing and everything. It was quite a production. Ultimately, the coin was still in possession at Sotheby's for a few months after it was sold. The owner paid for it, had it shipped by armored carrier to Ian's facility, and then I went up and picked it up and at Ian's bank vault and stuff like that. Great Collections' bank vault and stuff, like a whole 2-car security team sort of stuff. Definitely it was very
the Italian job.
Yeah, very James Bond moment. I'm in the back of an SUV. With a
bulletproof vest.
Little tiny suitcase with exactly 1 coin in it, waiting for a little red dot to appear on my forehead or something, and so we took it to the office, which is only a few miles from Ian's bank and their office and stuff and their facility. We took it to the office. You use the term walk through for a fast. We literally walked it through, right? I was there kind of every step of the way. We did let, I believe every grader in the room that wanted to look. We have an all grade. PCGS has an all grade thing on big coins that come in. Everybody gets a chance to grade it. Easy consensus 65. If I recall, there was some conversation about 65 plussing it. It was nice for the grade and stuff. Ultimately, we 65 it. We get it in PCGS plastic. We do 20 minutes of photos with it. And back to the vault, probably in about 2 hours round trip. Yeah, really, really cool story. And then just it's such an excellent story for numismatics and just fantastic.
Well, it just goes to show you, rare coins, one thing Kenny Senior always says is that, nice coins always sell, and then obviously rare coins, if you buy the right coins, they bring good money, and you've got to, that's the whole thing we going back to earlier about getting with somebody that you can help build a set with, somebody that you're matching wits with, that you trust, that's like, hey, this is a nice coin, you should put this coin back. Not just selling you something to sell it or buying it off of a picture or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity locally to buy, go to that coin shop and buy.
Yeah.
Right? Buy through him, buy with him,
Absolutely.
bounce things off of him. If you see a coin in auction, let him go view it for you, or, build that relationship.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
But, big shout out to Ian. Big fan of Great Collections.
Yeah. Great guy. I've done a ton of business with Ian, and can't say enough good things about.
Really? Yeah, me too. I just always had good experience. Ian has been, Ian is probably pretty easiest guy to work with.
One of the hardest working people.
He's up early,
dude. I don't know when he sleeps.
Yeah, he's up early.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I get some early morning texts that are early for me, and he's 2 hours. He's 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Well, I think we've covered the PCGS thing. So thank you guys for tuning in to the CoinShopPodcast.com. My brother Matt, Brett Charville,
Appreciate it, guys.
Kenny Duncan Jr. We're signing off. Thank you guys so much for listening. We had an amazing show today. We had Brett Charville here live in studio to talk about his time as president of PCGS, how he navigated through COVID, some of the coolest coins that he handled as president, and just overall good time, just going over his career, his storied career in numismatics, and what led him to what will be part 2 of our